Gangstar song Above the Clouds, which, for political junkies, samples John F. Kennedy's great speech about aerospace.
Nice. Well done, then.
When it all mixes together, yeah.
You put it all in there.
It's all in there, and it was an unredacted song, as they say.
Nice. Nice work.
We'll be seeing you tomorrow with the coverage. I think you'll be busy. I'll be busy. We're all looking forward to learning facts.
That's for sure. I hope so.
I'll see you then.
We get to see them all.
Yes, sir. Chuck Todd, thank you. We begin here on The Beat with breaking news. Hours before the release of this Mueller report expected tomorrow morning, the Trump DOJ has made this announcement. You may have heard about it. It is new. It is not what we knew would happen, but it is now the plan. Trump Attorney General Bill Barr holding a press conference at 9:30 a.m. with Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. What I can't tell you is what they're going to do about the redacted report. We know that we're going to see some attempted continuity. Barr and Rosenstein together, no word on whether Bob Mueller would be in the room. But all of this comes weeks into Barr's process of basically delaying when the redacted report would come out after issuing some conclusions and summaries that he didn't want called summaries. Now, when we get a press conference, we're going to get something about the Mueller report. The key here to think about, both with this morning press conference that's been announced as well as whatever tomorrow turns out to be, is we'll be dealing with primary sources with facts when we see the quotes from the report, or deal with evidence about the report, or that material is presented in context, whether it's by the press or other experts on the internet. We won't automatically be getting facts about this report when we hear from government officials, whoever they may be, or politicians in whatever party, or the president, who, of course, has a vested interest as a subject. We're going to hear a lot of depictions when this all breaks tomorrow morning.
You'll see a lot of very strong things come out tomorrow. Attorney General Barr is going to be giving a press conference. Maybe I'll do one after that. We'll see. But he's been a fantastic Attorney General. He's grabbed it by the horn.
Grabbed it by the horn. Also breaking tonight, the New York Times reporting on details that DOJ officials under Barr have been briefing the White House on Mueller's conclusions, quote, citing numerous conversations just this week in these recent days. We have a lot to get to, so I want to bring in our expert panel. Paul Butler, a former federal prosecutor with Washington experience; Jason Johnson, politics editor for The Root; and Elie Mystal, editor of Above the Law and a contributor to The Nation, and an analyst we've relied on here as we look at the intersection of the law and the narrative around the law, wherever that comes from. Paul Butler, I begin with you. Your reaction to the fact that while Mr. Barr has obviously taken scrutiny and heat for the way that he has selectively managed this process, clearly with an eye on headlines and narrative and media, now is not going to let the report speak for itself even for a few hours, but is going to get out and hold this presser with Rosenstein tomorrow morning.
So Bill Barr is the new Michael Cohen. He's acting like Trump's lawyer and fixer, and we should be very concerned. So this was the most consequential investigation of an American president in history. 3,000 subpoenas, 500 witnesses, 500 search warrants, a 400-page document, and the Attorney General gets to decide how much we get to see. The question is he going to scrub the document so much, there are going to be all these black and red and yellow lines through it, that it will be a literal and symbolic cover-up?
Jason, when you look at this as a reporter who's interested in the facts, and as we've emphasized on this show, there have been facts that alone, I mean without summary, I mean without hype, have been positive for Donald Trump and his team. Don Jr. not only never indicted, but never interviewed. Positive fact. Then there are other facts and evidence that have been very negative. Highest indictment rate of presidential advisors in American history. Either way, what does it tell you that Donald Trump is out there today praising Mr. Barr's PR strategy, which Donald Trump, as president, appeared to know about in advance? So the quote I just played was the president getting ahead of the DOJ's announcement of a presser. What does all of that tell you about the space between the facts, wherever they lead, and some of this very aggressive attempt to set them up by the Trump administration in coordination with DOJ?
Well, here's the thing, Ari. You know, the president does love a good story. You notice that he's come out and saying, maybe I'll do a press conference. He hasn't just boldly said, aha, I'm completely exonerated tonight, because perhaps, having learned some more details, he knows this is going to be embarrassing. What's going to be key, and what may actually influence how the president sort of lays out whatever facts should he do his press conference, is this sort of a, you know, is an iTunes album release where everybody's going to hear everything, or is it more like Tidal that's still going to be exclusive things that we don't really know? That's what no one knows yet. That's what the president actually knows right now. And that's going to determine what facts we end up hearing about.
Well,
this
you're not
this
even
fight is not
bringing
going to be
up,
over.
Jason, you're not even bringing up the SoundCloud rapper section that would be Rudy Giuliani.
Exactly.
Freestyling online, and people try to understand what it means.
Exactly. He's just trying to get his links out there so we pay attention. So we still don't know which facts are going to be looked at. And again, as Paul mentioned before, I mean, the whole thing could be X'd out in black and white like a little prison uniform. So, you know, I think this is just sort of narrative building, and the president's going to be selective with his facts, as he always is.
Elie?
Yeah, this is embarrassing. Obviously, the Attorney General of the United States thinks that his job is to be Trump's security whoopee as opposed to the actual people's lawyer. We shouldn't take anything that Barr says tomorrow. You said it exactly right at the open. We shouldn't take anything that Barr says tomorrow as anything other than performative coonery. We shouldn't take anything that the president says tomorrow as anything other than spin. Let me
draw your attention specifically to the Times reporting on that, because I think that the Attorney General always, if you want to be as open-minded as possible, always plays two roles. There is a part of the Attorney General that does represent the policy and the administration at that high level, and then there's the independent investigative part. What the Times story does tonight, in addition to President Trump pre-announcing what DOJ is doing, is make it look like on this issue of the basically what comes out of the Mueller report, that Barr is leaning in and that they are coordinating. Yeah. Do you view that as potentially inappropriate?
I think it's entirely inappropriate. This isn't briefing the president on what's happening. This is prepping the president so that the DOJ and the executive branch have a coordinated strategy. You remember, Bill Barr is the guy that, as a lawyer, doesn't think it's possible for the president to obstruct justice. And I think that's one of the reasons why he feels so comfortable helping the president obstruct justice. What we need right now, what we would have needed right now, is somebody with credibility to tell us what the official DOJ position is. But credibility is earned, and Barr has done nothing since he got the job to earn any credibility or respect.
Let me bring in Paul Butler on that other piece of this, which is there's been a lot of talk, all jokes aside, about Rudy Giuliani, about the so-called counter report that he's building. Now, one of the obvious questions was, with the DOJ emphasizing that no one had seen the Mueller report and it would be basically released in a fair fashion to all, redacted, what kind of counter report can you write? And so I wonder, Paul, what you think of, and I'm going to read from the Times story again, came out while we were coming to press, coming to the newsroom. Justice Department officials have had, quote, numerous conversations with White House lawyers about the conclusions made by Mueller in recent days. The talks have aided the president's legal team as it preps a rebuttal to the report and strategizes for the coming public war over its findings. A, if this is appropriate, why are they hiding it? They were suggesting this wasn't happening. And B, as a prosecutor who's been in other cases, do you view this as the normal way DOJ operates or something different?
This is different. This is, again, the Department of Justice losing its good name as an objective upholder of the rule of law and becoming a partisan advocate for the president, at least the leader. But we know that the president has reason to be concerned about obstruction. We know from what's in the public record that he fired James Comey because of the Russian investigation. He filed Michael Flynn, even though he knew he lied about the Russians. The president lied about the meeting with the Russian lawyer, and the president tried to. He wanted to fire Mueller, and Don McGahn talked him out of it.
But let me pin you on the new part. I mean, everything you just said is true context. But the new part appears to be the idea that the timing matters. That sooner or later, if the DOJ is fair, if they release material, for example, to Congress and the White House, that's fair. That's same time. The idea that they are acting, as Elie was saying, leaning into helping the White House by giving them a jump on this, is that unfair to a degree that concerns you, or is that just sort of the benefits of incumbency?
It's unfair in a way that makes us doubt how much faith we should put in the report that comes out tomorrow. It's of a piece with the Attorney General last week repeating Obama's lie, Trump's lie about the Obama administration spying on the Trump campaign.
Which he said under oath, yeah.
Yeah, the Attorney General is sounding like he's spouting off talking points from Fox News. He doesn't sound like an independent arbiter, so I don't know why we should trust him to provide us with the kind of information that we need to make a judgment about the president.
Everyone hang with me. As I've mentioned, we've been juggling breaking news, the New York Times, the DOJ announcement, Donald Trump previewing the DOJ announcement potentially, much to Mr. Barr's chagrin. My panel stays with me, but for more on this breaking story, I want to bring in NBC's investigative security reporter, Ken Dilanian, who's been covering this story. Ken, what are you hearing out of DOJ tonight?
Ari, this announcement really took people who've been following this closely by surprise. By surprise, it was not expected, and it's raising a host of questions that I think your panelists articulated very well, a torrent of questions and criticism about what exactly Barr is up to here. I mean, Barr has already released the conclusions of the Mueller report. There is no one that I've talked to can think of a reason.
His depiction, you're saying?
His depiction of the principal conclusions of the Mueller report. And so there's nobody that I've talked to that can think of a good reason why Barr and Rosenstein have to get up and give a news conference, particularly if they're speaking before the report has been released. Now, the DOJ will not say whether we will see the report before they get up and talk to the press or not. But I think Paul's point
wouldn't that alone, I mean, again, I'm not going to put any words in your mouth, but I would wonder whether if there is an effort to come out and do another preview-ish summary before people have had time to digest the report, whether that looks like what really Mr. Giuliani's role should be. Everyone is free to make their case. But the notion that the Justice Department, which oversees the independence and integrity of this probe, could be getting involved in the spinning, it does seem like overreach unless they are so concerned by what's in the report and what is not redacted, that they'd rather take the hit for that than the hit for hours of coverage of just the words in the report.
Look, I agree. I think that's where most people come out when they look at this. The idea that Barr is putting himself between the Mueller report and the public yet again, if that's the way it transpires tomorrow, it does look like he's doing the president's bidding, and it's part of a pattern. You know, calling what happened with the Trump campaign spying was feeding into what the president has been talking about. And when the president said the attorney general is going to come out strong tomorrow, there's been some speculation that he may announce. Remember, he said he was going to review the origins of the Mueller investigation. He's going to appoint a panel to do that. That's one possibility. He comes out tomorrow and announces the members of that panel, which will sort of further the Trump narrative that there's something wrong at the heart of this probe.
Are you hearing from anyone that the announcement or press conference tomorrow may be doing more than just discussing the Mueller report, but maybe adding other things, which, again, would look like a distraction going into the holiday weekend, but is a classic Washington move?
We've just heard that speculation that that's one of the things on the table for Barr related to the Mueller report, but also very much in the White House wheelhouse about things, a message they want to get out there, which is the appointment of a panel to investigate the origins of the Mueller investigation.
Stay with me, Ken. Jason and our whole panel's here. Jason, I want to ask you, sometimes the jokes in this business reveal truths.
Right.
I think it's well known at this point in this era that sometimes our friends and colleagues in late-night comedy are nailing the stuff better than we might. I certainly feel that way a lot of the time. And Mr. Stephen Colbert made the point, in a very funny way, his words, not ours, that if this is all a strategy to bury something going into the holiday weekend, it may not work. Take a look.
The report was originally supposed to be released Tuesday, today, but the Justice Department delayed it with no explanation. I have a feeling they're hoping to bury it over that holiday weekend. Because if there's one thing Easter is famous for, it's things staying buried.
Jason?
Yeah. Look, this is just the beginning. This is all going to be resurrected because no matter what it is that we get tomorrow, we know it is not the full, complete report. We know that Democrats are still going to sue for the complete report. We know that Democrats in Congress are still going to try and find the underlying information for the report. So all this administration is doing is attempting to put on another dog and pony show to distract the public from what they ultimately want. And here's the other thing, and I think this is really key when we talk about Giuliani and Barr in coordination with the White House. Look, I think Rudy Giuliani is probably a very smart guy, but he is not a speed reader. There is absolutely no chance that he is already preparing a counter response to this Mueller report if important sections of it haven't already been leaked to this administration. He can't read it any faster than anybody else.
Ari, I have some insight into that. I've spoken to members of the Trump legal team. What they envision that report as being is an attack on the investigation along the lines of it was partisan, it was biased, the Strzok and Page text, the many ways in which they think the investigation was illegitimate.
So let's do a little live legal analysis, Ken, if you'll join me. You are on the beat. If that is what they've already landed on, that would suggest, in conjunction with the new report out of the New York Times late today, that they must think the rest of what's in there is pretty bad. Because if they thought that it was more in line with Mr. Barr's depiction, basically, hey, there's not a lot here, not that bad, not really, not really crimes committed, then they would be going towards, if that was what their heads up told them, they'd be going towards supporting the credibility.
A shorter way of saying that is, why do you need to rebut a report that exonerates you? And in fact, when Barr issued his letter, I was hearing talk from the White House, hey, we may not need to release this counter report after all. But now you're absolutely right. The worm has turned in their thinking about how damaging this could possibly be to the president.
I have to wonder, why are people always surprised by these people when they do this? In Ken Dilanian's report, he just said the DOJ is surprised that Barr is making this press conference. Like, we have to stop being surprised when these people act in corrupt or unethical manners. Like, how many times do you have to go out in the rain?
Well, I'll tell you what. Look, Jason, you're there. I can't speak for everyone. Jason, I'm gonna say this to Jason. The reason Jason and I get surprised is we just don't know what we're doing.
I'm just freestyling it here. I just figured it out every time I show
nailed
up.
it. I think though, I'm going to take your having made a joke, I'm going to take your premise seriously. I think what happens sometimes, a night like tonight, we're on the eve of the Mueller report. Barr has again done something to basically try to upend what would have been the normal process of following the evidence and what's in the written report. When people sound surprised, I understand your frustration. I think part of what goes on is people are accustomed to trying to give the benefit of the doubt to public officials up and until they lose it. And that was a system that held, I would say, across the parties to a certain degree. And when you have a president who's been caught and busted lying more than any other politician ever in history, that alone, separate from everything else, is a big deal. And the people around him, one of our guests was just discussing Mr. Barr saying things about spying that, quite frankly, was not the way he always testified in the Bush era. Now, we've covered his approach to the pardons. We've covered other controversies. But I will tell you that the Trump version of Barr does actually look, in many evidence-based ways, worse than the previous era. So part of the quote-unquote surprise you're discussing, and I welcome your response, is people saying, oh, wow, it's gotten worse. People don't deserve the benefit of the doubt.
The man auditioned for the job with a discredited legal theory that the president cannot commit obstruction of justice. It is that discredited legal theory that got him the job. And I feel that given that he got the job under those pretenses, that the benefit of the doubt never should have been extended to him in the first place. And certainly everything he's done since he got the job has deepened my cynicism and distrust of this man.
I think that's well put, and we appreciate your vigor. Stay with me, as well as other experts are going to stay with me. What I'm going to do is take one turn now as part of our breaking coverage. Bill Barr has made this series of moves trying to frame the public understanding of the Mueller report before you see it, before the public gets any of it. And this is important as we get ready for this press conference that everyone's going to take tomorrow. This will be national and international news. So what do you need to know? Barr's 4-page summary claimed it was all about telling you what was in the Mueller report, but only quoted 75 words. And as I noted that night, immediately in our breaking coverage, not a single complete sentence of Mueller's. And then he went on to add his own additional conclusion on obstruction. Then Barr later took this unusual step of saying that he disagreed with public reaction and accounts, and then told Congress before, again, anyone saw the facts of the probe, the results of the probe, the words from Bob Mueller and his team, before all that, he rushed to Congress to announce a review of the origins of these probes.
I think spying did occur. Yes, I think spying did occur. Spying on a political campaign is a big deal. There were a lot of rules put in place to make sure that there's an adequate basis before before our law enforcement agencies get involved in political surveillance. I'm not suggesting that those rules were violated, but I think it's important to look at that.
To probe this issue, I turn to former federal prosecutor Gene Rossi and Bill Kristol, longtime conservative journalist, director of the group Defending Democracy Together, and a former Bush White House official who knows some of these key players. Good evening to both of you.
Good evening.
Gene, your reaction to both what it means to have a Barr Rosenstein press conference tomorrow morning around the release of the redacted Mueller report, and second, a narrower item, but one that I think our viewers who've been following this, if they're watching this show, who are reasonably intelligent consumers of the news, understand right out the gate, which is we didn't get a DOJ independent announcement. We got President Trump shooting off at the mouth that DOJ was going to do a presser, and then we got this rushed announcement. Do either of those elements look concerning to you, or should we all take a breath and see what happens tomorrow morning?
Well, I am taking a deep breath, and I got to tell you this. In the 30 years I was with the DOJ, I never saw a report or a process like the one that we've been witnessing in the last 2 weeks. Regarding the press conference, didn't Jim Comey have a press conference? That didn't go very well. So when Department of Justice officials, whether it's the Attorney General and or Rod Rosenstein, have a press conference regarding a report that in terms of historical proportions is off the chart, to have them give us the cliff notes, if you will, the prologue of the report before it comes out, that smells, given that Donald Trump is crowing that the Attorney General is going to do blocking for him, and it smells of politics. I don't like it. It stinks.
Bill Kristol?
I think it's foolish, actually, from Barr's point of view. Bill Barr may have tilted things more to Trump than I would like and than others would like. I've always thought at the end of the day he would let us see a, responsibly redacted report and sort of stay within the four corners of the law, even if he regards himself more as the president's cabinet secretary than some of us would like, and a little less as kind of a neutral, so to speak, attorney general, but staying within the bounds. This feels to me like a very foolish decision that Barr's a smart guy. I don't think he would make it. It's not going to work. It's going to backfire. Look what we're already talking about. And it's not just us. Everyone's saying, what is going on? Are you kidding? They're releasing the report, and he's not having a press conference a day later. He's not putting out a statement to explain how the redactions were done. That would be uncontroversial. Write a couple of pages saying, here are the lawyers who did it. Here are the processes we followed. He's going to have a press conference, and the president is the one who turns out is sort of touting it before the Justice Department announces it. Here's what I think. I think Trump ordered Barr to have this press conference. I think Trump knows the report is damaging. He's gotten enough briefings. The White House counsel has heard enough from Barr about what's in there. And Trump, in his way, is just saying, well, you go out there and spin it the other way. And Barr, for whatever reason, instead of saying, no, Mr. President, that would be inappropriate, is going to do it. Now, we'll see what he says. And maybe he'll stand up there and take 3 minutes and say, this is how the process worked. The following 14 lawyers worked on it. They worked in this room. Here's the color code of the redactions.
Although
you will read the report.
That benign view is a little bit what he already did in the first letter, where he said we had 500 witnesses, we had 11 foreign government requests. I'm interjecting because I also have breaking news. Both of you stay with me. Bill Kristol mentioned, well, did the president order it? We're not reporting that. NBC doesn't have that. But we do have, fresh handed to me, a brand new report from a key player here, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Jerry Nadler, who says two key things here. One, quote, I'm deeply troubled by reports the White House is being briefed on the Mueller report ahead, all caps, of its release. That's the New York Times account. And this is news, quote, DOJ is informing us we will not receive the report until after 11 or 12 tomorrow afternoon. All caps, after Barr's press conference, this is wrong. Let me explain to viewers exactly what we're seeing, because this is news in real time. This is the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee not just stating a view, although he also said his opinion, but he is stating, quote, DOJ is informing us we won't receive the report until tomorrow afternoon. So take it together. What we have is an on-the-record statement from DOJ. They're doing this morning with a big press conference to drive understanding, a sort of a second version, an oral version of the now infamous 4-page summary letter. don't call it a summary. And now Chairman Nadler saying the DOJ has informed him, that's an on-the-record account that DOJ's told him, you don't get anything till later in the afternoon. So we're going to have, and I bring back the panel, we're going to have, according to Chairman Nadler's description, and again, feeding into the view of this being a controversy, Paul Butler, hours of DOJ trying to drive a view in the mood of the Mueller report's out, when apparently, according to Nadler, they're being told it won't really be out. And everyone will be only living off maybe the revenge of the summaries.
Yeah, this is highly irregular. The Department of Justice likes to let its actions and its documents speak for itself. So presumably releasing the report and allowing the American people to digest it should be enough. But again, this seems like an attempt to frame the narrative. It's shortly before a lot of people are going to be observing Good Friday and Passover. You know, again, once again, the Attorney General seems like a partisan advocate for the president. He didn't need to see the Mueller report to exonerate Trump of obstruction. He exonerated him even before he read the report. And now, whatever else is in the report about obstruction, Barr does not want the American people to focus on that.
Bill Kristol, since I was picking up off of you when I added that, your view of what we're hearing from Chairman Nadler.
No, I think I'm actually shocked if they are going to try to have a press conference 2 hours before they release the report. Yes, and I think it's not going to work. I think they're just heightening suspicion. How do you succeed in spinning? You succeed in spinning by seeming credible and then subtly perhaps tilting it a little bit. That's in a way what Barr tried to do, in my view, in the 4-page letter. This is just flat out. I mean, I totally agree. If there's a report, put out the report, put out whatever you need to do to explain just the process of how we got to where we are. And then you can then try a day later to put or even 2 hours later to put your thumb on the scale, so to speak, and you can give your own interpretation. Maybe you're even entitled to, as the Attorney General. But you are not entitled an hour and a half before everyone sees it.
Also,
I don't think to discuss it.
You know, Gene, I hate to get into the depth of the Passover Eve and Good Friday Eve of it all.
Sure.
But let's just look at the timeline. Now what we're seeing is Barr, according to Chairman Nadler and according to the press notification we've been given by DOJ tonight, things can always change, but right now, Barr and Rosenstein coming out, there's no claim that Mueller will be with them, to say what Mueller did without showing or allowing people to see what Mueller did, and driving that for hours. Then, according to Nadler, breaking in this hour, later the report goes to Congress and potentially the public, the redacted report. That would seem, for anyone who's, I don't know, vaguely familiar with Washington and press coverage, to give Barr, Rosenstein, and Trump hours to set the narrative and drive this home, and then by the end of Thursday, you're getting into the eve of the holiday weekend.
Okay, tomorrow is Holy Thursday, and there's absolutely nothing holy about the process used by the Department of Justice, point one. Point two, the Attorney General of the United States has one duty: to enforce the rule of law and Lady Justice. And the appearance now is that Bill Barr is protecting the president. And the third and last thing is this: fear. The reason they're doing it this way is that Trump is deathly afraid of what the American public are going to see and read. That's why they're doing this.
Didn't Nixon at one point late in Watergate try to say, we're going to summarize the tapes for you, or we're going to meet with two senators? You know, we're not going to put them out. Trust us. Yeah, Senator Stennis, I think, from Mississippi, who was a friend of his.
Who had a hearing problem, I remember reading.
This is not going to work. This is not going to work. I don't care if it's Holy Thursday. I don't care if it's Erev Pesach and all this. People are not going to.
Bill, you don't care if it's Erev Pesach.
I deeply care. I feel bad. Any relatives watching, I want to apologize for that. It is not going to work. It is not going to work.
I'm only having fun with you along the way. Your quote is not literal.
The report is going to be there, and it's going to swallow